Obviously, when you hear the claim AI first, everybody goes wild and crazy, thinking that definitely the human is going to be taken out of the loop.
Right.
And not this can be farther than the truth. Gotten with artificial intelligence and the implementation of AI in schools, it has been really, really fast. I mean, what, less than 2 years, really? And honestly, and quite honestly, you as a developer yourself, you know that people have started talking seriously about it only in 2024. And we say 2024 as it was like 10 years ago, right? It feels like in the era of AI. This is part of my AI literacy training with them, because my job as an educator is not only to teach them the subject, but my responsibility now, especially me as a person who specializes in artificial intelligence in education, it is important for me to...
Hi everyone, and I welcome you all to another episode of our podcast called Control Plus Ed, where we discuss education technology and education in the era of AI. I hope you're doing well. I was reading an article and it was about Duolingo and Duolingo going AI first. What was very interesting was the feedback. A lot of people were not really happy about it. And of course, teachers did not like it at all. But even the learners, I saw a few comments that said, I don't like it. AI first means humans lost, and things like that. And a lot of people also said, I'm not sure they actually did or not, but they said they're going to unsubscribe or stop using the service. This was a very interesting question for me. Is AI actually going to replace teachers, or has it already started to replace teachers, at least in the ESL or language, should I call it, industry or realm? So is it actually true? To have this conversation, I have a very special guest today. And the guest is very special because of two reasons. Number one, she is herself a very experienced ESL teacher. But not just that, she also is in the AI industry, and she is also a co-founder of an AI tech startup. And this gives her not only very good credibility, but it also puts her in a situation where, on one hand, there is a lot of fear that it is going to take over everything. And on the other hand, she is herself an ESL teacher. So I welcome Andy Lucchesi in today's podcast. Thank you very much, Andy, for taking time out.
Hi, hello everybody. Thank you for having me over. I'm really happy to be here and share some time with you. And who's going to read this, I hope that it helps, as it has helped me when I, in the past and currently, have heard so many podcasts of people that are in the industry. So let's pitch in a little bit.
Thank you very much. And yes, absolutely. And I'm sure you also heard the introduction that included Duolingo. First of all, you're aware of this shift at Duolingo, right?
Absolutely. I actually wrote 2 articles about that. You can find the latest article on Substack. And basically, let's go first with organizing our thoughts. I think that the claim that Duolingo did almost a month and plus ago, it was highly, highly misunderstood. Because obviously, when you hear the claim AI first, everybody goes wild and crazy, thinking that definitely the human is going to be taken out of the loop.
Right.
And this can be farther than the truth. Actually, what AI first means is automating repetitive tasks, reinventing workflows, freeing the human for their creative capacities, enhancing learning features. So AI first, specifically when it comes to the Duolingo claim, has nothing to do specifically on leaving the human out of the loop, but actually making the human more in touch of their human capabilities as educators and
Right.
creators of content in order to actually get further with the material and the possibilities and the offerings that Duolingo may have now and in the future. In fact, one of the things that I talk about in the article that is related to being AI first is that we cannot be AI first if you're not AI ready. So basically, my claim goes really much quite aligned with this thought. Because, for example, in Skilling Future, which is the startup that I have co-founded with Shahida Rahman, that she is the founder. We really envision the fact that you need to be AI ready in order to be AI first. Yes.
Right.
So our specialty basically is that we work on AI roadmap integrations for K-12. That is our niche specifically. In my particular case, apart from that, I also work on the ESL industry. So there is always a plus
Right.
in the people in our team, but together that is our main focus to work on AI roadmap integrations for schools. And in this particular case, is related to the environment or the ecosystem of what a school represents. If we translate that idea into the company Duolingo, for example, is basically the same. Is integrating this AI roadmap
Mm-hmm.
basically to their company,
Right.
meaning that the staff that they already have is basically the one that they have, and maybe the ones that might not be ready for it, and they unfortunately have to either leave and get prepared for it, or the ones that they already have trained them for what AI first means.
So
So that is,
if
yeah,
I am an individual teacher,
yeah.
what would AI first mean for me? Um, does it make AI a helpful tool for me, or is it making AI a competitor?
Well, I think that if we think about artificial intelligence as a competitor, that is a really wrong way to interpret artificial intelligence in our lives.
Right.
To make things very clear, artificial intelligence, we have been living with artificial intelligence for a long time. The only difference is that now we understand artificial intelligence in the context of generative AI, which is basically what we understood back in 2000 by the end of 2022 when ChatGPT emerged in the market, right? So
Right.
for us, being able to understand that a model, a system, a large language model like ChatGPT could speak natural language, that is a huge, huge milestone for humanity and technology. Because in the past, we as linguists, as language educators, as teachers, it is actually really important to maintain the sacred, the like the sacred and the how holy the word is about that it belongs just to human. And now the fact that you can actually communicate with the machine in your same natural language, that is amazing and it's huge. And of course I do understand that is terrifying. Now, this said, is it going to be like a competitor? Absolutely not, because we're talking about two different things. We're talking about the system, the machine, or the tool, if you may. I wouldn't call it tools at this point. But and also the human experience, which is totally different. So
Right.
no, there is no competition there.
Okay. I would trust your word on that, and I hope that there is still some opportunity for me in the ESL space if I choose to. And
Do you want
after
me to
two
give you
five
some
years,
examples? Do you
oh,
want me to give you some
absolutely,
examples?
yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
To make the point a little bit clearer, because for instance, what does it mean the human plus the machine?
Mhm.
If we're thinking of, for example, large language models like ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, for that matter, that can actually teach the grammar and be there 24/7, definitely it enhances the learning experience for that
Right.
student. Especially for those that, considering that each human is a very specific individual, it basically caters our own needs, meaning that if you have social anxiety, it helps a lot, which comes it comes out a lot when we're learning a second language, because usually one of the things that we encounter as ESL educators in the classroom is that our students don't want to speak because they don't want, to they probably are going to be mocked by the other students, that sort of thing, especially if we are in elementary or high school, right? Also, one of the things that we have to consider is that each one of the students that we have, they have different learning necessities. So in that specific case, these large language models or artificial intelligence, depending on the tool, can serve with a very specific purpose as well. That to talk about what the AI, the tool, the system can do. In the human aspect, we can cater specifically what we are good at, which is being human. And that means detecting a little bit more the emotional aspect of learning, the cultural nuances that definitely the large language models are still on the training, and they will be training forever, because that is the purpose of data. They're going to be training forever, but we can add our human cultural experience as well. So our nuances will matter. And that sort of thing is what when I separate the educator, the human educator, versus the system or tool that you're going to utilize.
Okay, great. So you are an ESL teacher yourself, and I believe you also teach business English, if I'm correct on this.
Yes, yes.
Oh,
I have been teaching business English for over 8 years now. I mean, I have a
oh,
total of 6 years experience.
okay.
And I have taught English starting from preschool, and then I evolved into elementary and then into high school, and then I decided to do corporate. That's when I decided to get into linguistics and all that. So in this particular case, for me, was quite interesting when I was lucky enough to be on, the same time where artificial intelligence came out as the in the way that we know it right now. So it makes total sense. I think that all the experience that I have gained till now,
Right.
plus AI, it's going to make for those people that are early adopters or take the smart decision to implement it in their teaching experiences.
Mhm.
They're going to become the super educator, from my point of view.
Okay, that is great and it sounds interesting. But let's talk about your learners a little bit.
Of
So,
course,
if you take the example of your business English learners,
yeah.
um, how do you integrate AI into your lessons to help students or learners, not just in terms of learning, but also in using language more effectively? Is AI helpful?
Definitely. Um, right now, one of my latest presentations that I have done for for TESOL Spain specifically, and then I also did a similar version for TESOL France, was about brainchild of mine, that is the two-way learning, how prompt engineering can enhance ESL learning.
Mhm.
So basically, is when you integrate prompt engineering or the format that prompt engineering basics offer
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
order to organize your thoughts and therefore communicate a lot better. One of the things that I have that I have created or basically recycled from my teaching in the past. It's a technique that I have been using that is a method of mine that I call the power of three. And basically, the power of three is, and this comes inspired by writing methodologies, and it's basically utilizing a main idea and then providing context and then examples. It resembles very similar in the way that we might prompt. Now, of course, that there are many different types of prompting, right? Except that when you are an ESL student, one of the main issues that you have is to organize the text and to organize the information that you have, that is the theory, and then materialize it in a way that can become a thought that is complete, right? So usually when my students want to answer something, one of the hardest things for them is to answer in a way that is linear and that is satisfying for them, because as you mentioned, for when you are in business English, you already are an expert in an area, you are of a certain age, and you want to do things in the high quality level related to your expertise. So all this that I have mentioned before has helped them really a lot. And not only in the way that they communicate with the large language models when they ask specifically what is it that they need, let's say, for example, to help them craft a speech or help them with their KPIs, or something as simple as creating email templates, that sort of thing. But also in real life human communication, it has helped them have this mental framework in order to communicate in a much more organized way, by saying exactly what is it that they want to communicate at first, and then they can develop that idea and up close it. They can start explaining, providing context, providing anecdotes if that is the case, work on a little bit of storytelling if that is also the situation, that sort of thing. So yes, it
So,
does.
based on what you have said, it appears that AI is not only helping in language specific things like fluency, but it is also helping in creating or triggering high level thinking, high level strategic thinking, strategic business communication, and so on. Is this a fair assumption?
Yes, definitely, especially because one of the things that when generative AI emerged in the market for the rest common dominator, like us, that it was definitely democratized for the rest of users that they were not in the tech field. It was actually really interesting how the word critical thinking became sort of like a buzzword. If you have been in the education field, for you it's a normal concept because you have studied it. If you studied education, or eventually you had to get in contact with that word for learning pedagogical methods, right? So the thing about critical thinking is that people were worried about the lack of critical thinking due to artificial intelligence, specifically the large language models. So that is basically part of the things that I also try to advocate for, meaning that this is one of the things that I advocate for also at Skilling Future, is that we have to promote ethical AI, meaning that ethical AI use, it's part of utilizing tools in a way that doesn't diminish the human experience in any way. It has to always focus on the human in the center, because in the end, these are basically systems that have been created by humans for humans to solve our problems, right? Or issues or necessities.
Right.
So therefore, it shouldn't be diminished. Now, I wouldn't blame the machine or the system or the tool if there is lack of critical thinking. I should blame, for example, the education system. I should blame the educator or the parents that perhaps they are using an old system that makes no sense for the AI era. So basically, what for me it's important to focus on when we're talking about critical thinking is that all that we have understood in the past about critical thinking has
Right.
to be reshaped and not only reshaped, but also in a way that allows us to develop our human experience.
AI is not only helping in language learning, but it is also triggering critical thinking and strategic communication. So, higher order, higher level learning. Is this an accurate assumption?
No, it's not. I think that talking about critical thinking is core in the AI conversation when it comes to humans. In the past, for us educators, it's a normal word to use. It's a normal concept. Critical thinking has been in our pedagogical methods from day one. It's just that now it has become sort of a critical, of a buzzword. So critical thinking is really important to consider when it comes to the human experience, because it's one of those skills that, because of the AI era, we as humans have to try to excel. Because when we're talking about AI, specifically, let's say large language models, they excel at pattern recognition, but discerning nuances, asking the right questions, and evaluating context, that's human only territory. So I would like to enhance the fact that critical thinking is one of those skills that we should develop and should focus on. So in my teaching, I try to encourage my students to keep on the critical thinking process as much as we can, and not
Right.
try to have conversations with the large language models in a way that just give me the answer and I'll just, print it or just copy and paste.
Right. So, just a quick follow-up question. So, with your learners, I'm assuming they are of an age where you explain these things to them and they understand it's for their own good, and they would actually follow your instructions on how to use that LLM model. But if we make some of these technologies available to younger group, um, how would we ensure that they are also not becoming too dependent, and they're able to use it correctly? Because due to deadlines, or maybe similar factor, maybe because just purely because of their age, they just use it in a way that in the long term may not really help them with critical thinking.
Well, that is the thing. I think that is an actual important question to ask, because right now that we are learning from our mistakes, and with because if you see chronologically how far we have become, we have how far we have gotten with artificial intelligence and the
Right.
implementation of AI in schools,
Right.
it has been really, really fast. I mean, what, less than 2 years, really? And
Oh
quite
yeah.
honestly,
Yeah.
yeah. And quite honestly, you as a developer yourself, you know that people have started talking seriously about it only in 2024. And we say
That's right.
2024 as it was like 10 years ago, right? It
Yeah,
feels
yeah,
like in the era of AI. But
absolutely.
I do also have younger students. I have students specifically that are in grade 10, 11, and 12
Hmm.
specifically. So this is part of my AI literacy training with them because my job as an educator is not only to teach them the subject, but my responsibility now, especially me as a person who specializes in artificial intelligence in education, it is important for me to help them become the new digital citizen that they have to be in this new era. I think that is a huge mistake that schools are making by not integrating artificial intelligence in everything that they do right now. Not for not in a way that I have seen it, like they sprinkle with AI and say like they call it innovation and say, okay, we have covered,
Right,
we are covered within that area. That is not it. When I'm talking about AI first and about developing this new digital citizen, is
right,
basically transforming our students in asking questions like, okay, if I utilize this large language model and I have this sort of conversation, am I going to be learning something? Is this actually going to help me develop this point, this goal? If the question is no, then they have to go back and ask a different question. For also, if they are developing a project, am I using this in a way that I am harming myself or others? That goes also with AI ethics. So everything that we have learned in the past,
right.
and I'm talking about like until 2022, 23,
Hmm.
has to be reshaped having AI in mind.
Right,
Nothing that you're going to find out there in the market is going to be without it nowadays.
right.
I am not saying, though, that artificial intelligence has to be in each and every process of the learning process itself. I am not saying this because for our human experience, there still is important to maintain a learning process that has nothing to do with this external system yet. But nonetheless,
So it is. Why is it important in the first place for schools to integrate AI? Because, sorry, I'm jumping a little ahead in here, but you actually raised a very important point that it is not important to integrate AI in every aspect. But then, why is it important to integrate AI? If a school chooses not to do that, why is that a problem?
actually, it's a huge problem for the next generations, especially the ones that is the transitional one, the one that is that we're talking like now until 2030. If schools make the conscious decision of not integrating artificial intelligence in their schools, they're making the huge mistakes of not preparing our kids for the future,
Right,
and they're not going to be work ready. But forget about work. If we're talking about kids that are still in high school, they're not going to be college ready. You see,
hmm,
if we were talking about higher education and we're talking about students that they're going to be in a working field, definitely universities have roll up their sleeves and they are designing really interesting programs when it comes to integrating artificial intelligence in their systems and their in their ecosystem. Sorry, schools have to do that as well. Now, here is where there is a huge dilemma, and I do understand the caution that schools are taking when it comes to integrating it. Okay, and that's why, for example, Skilling Future, we're really good at, because we do understand the limitations, and we help the schools understand where are the limitations, which are the systems and the tools that have to be integrated.
Right.
We also, it's all part of an education and a training, because it's not just utilizing any or whatever tool that you find out there that you consider could be suitable for your school ecosystem.
Right.
On the contrary, it has to be done with a very deep analysis and a knowledgeable one, not just by the criteria that you have without having any previous AI training. And that's why for example, in our teacher trainings, when we have our teacher trainings, we insist on having a minimum of technical explanation, so the teacher understand what happens behind in the system. So when it produces an outcome, we can also evaluate it from there. Do you see? Also, it is important in schools, considering, for example, GPR. And also, it is also really important to understand the fact that there is there are legal boundings,
Right.
GDPR, and also, if, for example, these tools are going to be damaging for the students at one point, because they usually have to
But
they
what is the
update.
damage? What is the damage that, people or schools or even AI developers, leaders should genuinely be concerned about? There's a lot happening in terms of policy making right now, but what are the real challenges that you foresee because of this?
Well, right now is try to understand and analyze which are the tools that are high risks, low, medium risk, and the ones that are, let's say, safer or low risk, right?
But is it related to the privacy of students? Is it more related to security? What exactly are the concerns right now?
All of the above mentioned.
Okay.
Yes, all of the above mentioned, especially because, again, I am a cautious optimist, okay?
Mhm.
Meaning that when I encounter a system or a tool that I think that is interesting,
Right.
I study everything that is related not only to the functioning of that tool or
The
system.
shortcomings in the same times of the yeah.
Exactly. Yes. I mean, like, what is going to be also the relationship with the vendor and the school?
Mhm.
How data is going to be treated? Because right
Right.
now we have to understand that. That's why I mentioned GDPR. It is so important to understand where our data, especially our students' data, is going to be utilized,
Right.
how long it's going to be in the system, because students and people in general have the right to be forgotten. And that is
Right.
something that, yeah, and that is something that sometimes if you are if you are a school and these are the things that you just don't know, a lot of red flags will emerge. For example, if it's a tool that will evaluate a student's behavior, in what way is going to evaluate it? Is that going to, because this tool can damage the student's progression. Let's say, for example, local in the school. It can damage the student's progression. It can provide wrong data to the school in terms of his or her grades.
Mhm.
Then let's take it a little bit further. What happens if this is going to determine if the kid is going to go to college or not because of those grades? Were those grades fair in the first place? Were they biased? That sort of thing. So it is an important analysis that have to
Right.
come to each and every tool that
And
has
I
to
guess
be.
it's not just security and privacy right now, but privacy, the concept of privacy globally is going to change for the years to come. Because, I mean, imagine right now when you call your bank or when you call your insurance or something like that, some sort of service provider, they ask you certain questions to make sure that it is really you. And my concern is that a lot of this information about our kids, it may already be available through LLMs and through AI globally on the internet. We may have to change this entire process of even, verifying someone's identity altogether.
But I mean, you're talking about something that is quite important. Everything that we have mentioned here is really important. We really have to be careful about it, and that's one of the things that I like about the AI EU Act. Yes.
Mhm. Right.
I really enjoy reading it because I know that it's quite severe. But one of the things that I loved about it is that when it comes to understanding all what you have said, like, okay, privacy and safety and how do all this information that is going to be already in the system. Well, this is part of AI literacy education. This is all about it. I mean, if you're trying to educate the new generation, is like, okay, you're not supposed to introduce your full names. You're not supposed to introduce even your gender for that matter,
Right.
because we understand that the data that these models have been trained on, unfortunately for us, for now, it's quite biased
Right.
because it is the data that has been collected. It's from our real world that it is indeed bias itself. So the output that we're going to obtain from them are again a cycle of bias outputs.
Right.
So that is the thing. You have to educate the student to ask better questions, to have more quality conversations, and with the teachers, for example, they also have to learn, like, okay, how is it that you're going to utilize your students' data? Our recommendation is like, okay, so why don't you use a code, or why don't you use numbers that have nothing to do? It's like internally, you know who number one is, but the system doesn't. So in that way, I think that it helps the teacher do their work, which basically is to take off the load of work that sometimes it's used for, make their, like, life easier when it comes to
Right.
productivity or creative processes. But honestly, if you're going ever to use it for, especially those platforms that have been created to grade the students or evaluate, etc.,
Mhm.
well, if your school have decided to use those platforms, make sure never to introduce names, never to introduce gender, that sort of thing.
Right. So you spoke about teachers, and you are involved in teachers training a lot. Like, ESL teachers training is one thing, but because of skilling feature, I'm sure you are now involved with teachers in general, and not just in one part of the world, but globally. So you have that exposure. What is the biggest mindset shift that you foresee, or that you think must happen in this age of generative AI?
I believe that educators have to understand that it's not learning only about how a tool or system works, it's also understanding how artificial intelligence in general works. And with that, also, they have to educate themselves when it comes to just the fundamentals of
Right.
a little bit of AI ethics and a little bit of AI governance, in order for them to make correct decisions. In the end, they are the ones who are going to be every day working with those systems and tools in the classroom with their students. And right now, it's going to be a lot of learning from our mistakes process. So if the educator in the classroom doesn't have the mind shift of educating themselves with the minimum of fundamentals of what artificial intelligence entails, well, then we are in trouble. Of course, I do understand that a lot of educators depends on what their schools want from them.
Right.
And sometimes they might say that why bother if my school is never going to implement it. I think that
Absolutely.
is also that is a huge mistake, by
Yeah,
the
it
way,
is. Yeah. So,
because in the end they have to keep themselves current. Because if you think about it, once that you have your degree or your certification as an educator, it's like, oh, I've got it, so then I'm done. That is so wrong.
so
If you are
what should
an
be the
active educator.
motivation actually? So you actually mentioned something very interesting, that if a school does not allow or does not encourage their teachers to learn these new tools and technology, what should drive them to go beyond what the school requires?
They have to do it anyways, because right now, honestly, the conversation of if we should implement or not implement artificial intelligence is very 2023. Right now, because of the EU AI Act and other regulations that we have out there, and all the initiatives that have been going on around the world, in China, in Australia, in the United States, not to mention, for example, in Canada, that also, for example, in Africa, there are a lot of African countries that they are starting to actively implement artificial intelligence. So it is starting to be actively integrated. So
Right.
if your school is one of those schools that is trying to catch up or not even started, that doesn't have to be your case. You always have to be in the loop when it comes to education, whatever it is that it's out there. You have to be at least informed. So when whatever it is that comes to your institution, school, academy, they want then to do it in a rush, you will be ready. You see, one of the things of especially public education is that they wait until there is almost like barely no time or time
Yeah.
has already
When everyone
surpassed.
else has already shifted to the new norms, then they're the last ones. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And unfortunately, that also goes for the teachers.
Right.
Again, I probably the question is like, okay, so if the school doesn't have the budget or doesn't want to allocate some of that budget to the
Right.
training, what should I do? There is a lot of free trainings out there online that you can find on YouTube. There are so many content creators like myself that I help educators around the world to continue their journey of education. We as Skilling Future, we have every Saturday free trainings for educators around the world. Also, we have much more. We have deeper learning courses. Those are paid though. But again, you can also have a little bit of what you will obtain in those courses coming to the free trainings, the free workshops that we offer. We also, right now in July, we're going to start with our roundtables and our article club, which means that we're going to try to analyze what is going on out there every month and understand how is it that it affects us as educators with so the information that we have out there doesn't overwhelm us but maintain us actively positively involved without making us crazy.
Right. No, that is actually something educators should definitely do and follow. And by the way, you mentioned your own content creation as well. So if you want to share the handle that people could follow, you can also do that. And I would also try to add that into the
Oh,
description
sure.
of this video.
Yes, if you want to find me on Instagram or TikTok, you can find me by aiandys dot everyday.english. That is my handle. And if you want to read things that has a little bit more meat into it, you can follow us on Substack by Skilling Future. You just type Skilling Future, and that's going to be us. The logo, it's a little brain. And you can also find us on LinkedIn by Skilling Future. So that's us.
Awesome. Thank you very much for sharing that. And just one last question now.
Yes.
Before.
Oh, sorry, I have also forgotten. I forgot. You can also find us on, it's just that we have so many places where you can find us. You can also find us on YouTube, again, by Skilling Future, and recently on Instagram that we have started there too. That's it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much for that. So as a last question for this podcast, but this question or the answer to this question is probably going to be the first step for a lot of educators and organizations around the world. What is that one advice or one advice each that you could give to individual educators who are maybe struggling with the concept of AI or finding it difficult, and also one advice to the school or school leaders on how they can start on their journey with AI?
Okay. I think that organizing yourself and being clear with your intention and purpose is the most important thing that you can do for yourself and your institution right now when it comes to artificial intelligence. For the independent educator as well for the school, I'm going to give the same advice. If you want to learn about artificial intelligence, but it's just an idea, a desire, you're not going anywhere, because that is just having a plan like, oh, I plan to learn this, but you don't have a strategy. The strategy comes when you definitely have an intention, a purpose of where is it that you want to take your school and how far you want to take it with artificial intelligence. And start by implementing it with the first steps, which are fundamentals. Let's not go crazy, as I have seen in so many schools or for so many educators, that they want to jump 3 or 5 steps for learning any sort of fundamentals. And obviously things are not going to make any sense. So go first in order, learn the fundamentals, learn the basics, and once that you have done that well, you can just go to the moon and beyond. And more importantly, once that you have learned these fundamentals and basics that I'm mentioning, if you have a clear intention, that intention will evolve with time, and then your school and mission will evolve as well. So it's all a little bit of a cycle that you have to do at first, which is the first part, which is the training and the fundamentals, and then evolve into what will be best for your schools.
So if I summarize it in 2 points, then it would be first understanding what you want to do with AI, how would it align with your overall goal and mission, and taking baby steps. So not the all or none mindset, but small changes with every iteration. Is that accurate?
Yes. That is totally, that is 100% what I wanted to say. If you think about it, once that you have understood the basics, the rest is going to make a lot of sense. You come from the tech world, so you can also, understand that if you don't understand the principles of something, nothing that you propose or what you read out there is going to make a lot of sense. You already have a criteria, but not a criteria with the fundamentals that is going to make logical that learning. So it has to be taken with baby steps. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I 100% agree that, it should always start with a very clear why. Why are you doing it? And as you gave the example of software engineering, then yes, absolutely. Unless you know why something needs to be done, there will be very little or even no motivation on actually doing it. Thank you very much, Andy. It was full of learning for my own self as well. And I'm sure that our viewers or listeners, they also really loved it and enjoyed it. Thank you very much, all who joined us today. And since it's a podcast, of course, you would be watching it on different timing from different time zones. But if you have any questions, if you want to ask anything to Andy as well, please do leave your comments. And I would try my best to reach out to Andy again and get you the answers if he has time. But would love to have your feedback on it. Thank you once again. And thank you very much, Andy. Take care, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.